Hey, it's Mr. Native Survival. Today we're going to be making a quickie Bankline bowstring. We're going to make it 4-strand. Stay tuned. So basically, all I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the Bankline, I'm going to go back and forth 4 times, and I'm going to leave myself at each end like about a foot extra, because I'd rather have a little too much than not enough, because if I make it too short I waste all that cord. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so it's just the same Bankline we carry on our site. I just take it off the roll, that way it's more pliable to be different shapes and stuff in my rucksack. Make sure I have about a foot past. I'm holding it tight while I pull, so that way I don't pull, obviously, the string. So if I do that, I'm going to lose where I'm at. Alright, so now I have 4 strands. Just went back and forth 4 times. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to cut the loops in the rope. I'm going to tie a bowline on one side as my anchor that's not going to slip on me. Then I'm going to work on the other end. Okay, so this is what I have. I have 4 strands of Bankline running the whole length of my bow. Here's the other end, here's the other 4. Okay, so the whole length of my bow plus a foot on each side. Okay, so now I'm going to just make a bowline. And you know, I have a lot of room to play with, so you don't have to be too worried about messing up right now. That's why you give yourself a foot on each side. So I'm sure you remember how to make a bowline, right? Make a loop, go down, underneath, around, back through. Check my knot video if you haven't. So I'm doing it with all 4 strands. I'm going to make this small enough so it fits on the knock over there, but it doesn't really want to come off. It's not overly huge. So I'm looking at right now for my loop. It's probably pretty close, so I think that will work. So I'm going to go around, back through. Make sure I get around all the strands. There we go. So I'm going to go back through. That's 3, and the one loner, there's the 4. Make sure we have 4 on this end. We do. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling that taut. Alright, so there is a 4. There we go. 4-strand bowline with Bankline. So this will be the anchor of my string. So let's put it on and work on the other side. So what you do is you lightly twist the string. I like to go counterclockwise because that's the way that the earth is rotating. And you step into your bow. Okay. Now this is how I set my placement of my knot for the other side of my string for all my bows. So this in essence is how I make my strings. It's really, really simple. Again, another technique that my buddy Kevin taught me. He taught me a ton about archery. Really appreciate that. Pretty simple stuff. You go around your knock. You go underneath. Okay, underneath. Grab a nice handful. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to step into my bow. I'm going to bend my limbs and pull at the same time. So I'm shortening the string up. Now I'm going to let it relax. Let the string stretch out a little bit. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Do this a couple times. Now I'm going to just wrap it around the knock so I can get a good look and test my brace height. Wrap it a few times. I just put a half hitch in it, not a big deal. Sounds like my sounds like my daughter's coming to visit me. Put one more half hitch in there. Just like that. Okay, now let's see where we're at. Hi, sweetheart. Okay, my little daughter just came and visited me. She's only 16 months. Alright, so here's my brace height. It's just a quickie survival bow. So the brace height is going to be low, and that's fine with me. I like to have on the bow like this, quickie bow, no lower than my fist. Alright, so let's see where we're at. Okay, it's a little too low. Okay, it's about one finger too low. So I'm going to go back, undo my two half hitches, tighten it a little bit more, put my half hitches on again, until that's where it's at. I'll be right back. Alright, so I just tightened it again. Now we only have half a finger. We're almost there. So, the bow's been sitting there for 2 minutes. So I bet if I do it one more time, I'll be good to go. This time I'll do it on camera. So I'm going to step into my bow. Move the stuff in my pocket so they're not in the way. Just put my leg right on the handle. Can undo my two half hitches. I'm going to grab the string, good and taut. Now I'm going to bend the bow. And now the string is lax. I'm going to take up that slack. Love it right there. I'm going to go around, I'm going to keep it tight. Put a half hitch, keep it tight. Another half hitch. Okay, see where we're at. It's close enough for me. Alright, I mean we're pretty much a fist. I'm like a quarter of a finger off. Close enough for me. Not that big of a deal. Alright, so now I'm going to take a piece of charcoal and I'm going to mark up the back of the Bankline or whatever I'm using as a string. Okay? Now what this is going to do is give me a spot on the string that the back of my knot has to be at. So for this string to still have this brace height, after I undo it and I tie the knot, as long as the charcoal is at the back of my bow line, it'll be just like this. Alright, so I have the area with the charcoal on it. Maybe you guys can see right there. So I'm going to make that the back of my knot. So I'm holding what needs to be the back of my knot. So this needs to be the back. Then I need to start my bow line further down. Alright. So my knot will look like this, my bow line. I want to make it a little bigger than that. Alright, so my knot will be about this big. Now I want to make it bigger because it has to be big enough to move down the whole bow. It has to be wider than the widest point of the bow. I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to be real careful to keep my place while I tie this knot. Okay, this is where I'm at so far. Keeping my finger at the back where the knot has to be the end of the knot where the knock is going to go. Looking for precision here, not speed. You want to do it once, you want to do it right. So I'm slowly tightening it up, keeping my finger where I want the end of the knot to be. Pull on it a little bit. Make sure my knot is good and balanced. Alright, so there's my bow line. And it's exact length that I think it needs to be for me to have at least a fist for my brace height. So let's pop it on, see how she fits. Alright, so here's why I keep it wide in the widest part of my limb. There's two ways to get this loop on now. First is take my bottom loop off so this can reach, and slide this below my knock here and so this can get back on. I'll show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to go to my smaller one, take it off. Okay? I'll just keep it down here for a second. Put my bow around. Put my larger one on. Slide it down far enough until my bottom knot can now reach and be put back on. Okay? So now, oops, slipped off on me. So now the top knot is on the limb, just like it needs to be slid up and put in the knock. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. So now the question becomes, why bother making this bigger? Because for the future, if I find that my bow starts creating set, which means that basically my limbs over time are no longer where they were. Okay, if I'm pulling the bow back this way and my limbs over time set here permanently, I lose a couple inches. Now my string's a little too long. I'm going to lose cast, I'm going to lose some power. Okay? I'm lose draw length anyways because the bow's a little shorter now, but at least it still has strength. So when that happens, instead of having to make a new string, you can just twist your string. But here's the problem. I can't twist it right now the way it is when it's on the bow. It doesn't work. So what you do is you make this big enough, this top one big enough, so it can slide all the way down the bow. I'm going to hold my bottom knot on for you guys. So I'm going to slide the top one all the way down the bow. I'm going to go past the bottom one down here. Okay. Pull it through. So now my bottom is still on, but I was just able to get my top one on without taking my bottom off. So now I can take it and I can twist it and make it shorter. Okay, because if I twist this string, it's going to get shorter. But it's not on my limb anymore, right? Well, I can just do the exact same thing I just did. Go all the way down to my other side. Go over my knock that already has a string on it. Slide it all the way down my bow. And as long as I've made this wider than the widest part of my bow, it'll slide all the way back down onto the limb, right where it was. Now it has whatever twist I put into it. And now it's going to be a little shorter string. Okay? So for the future, so I don't have to mess around with the string anymore, I make this top loop big enough to slide up and down my bow so I can twist it, change its tension, put it right back on without having to take the bottom off. Because what happens is when you take the bottom off, all that twisting you put in comes undone. Because there's all this tension going to the bottom of the string. So I can keep this on here, twist it, make all that tension in the string, and then just slide it right back on the bow, no problem. Alright, so let's string it up and see how the new string works out. Now, if this is hard, if you have a hard time, I mean, you gotta fight. Sometimes you lose the battle to get it up there. You know it's right. Yeah, that feels about right. Awesome. Awesome. Now let's see where our brace height's at. Just first fitting the string. Boom. One fist. I'll take that all day. Take that all day. Nice black Bankline string. 4-strand. So now I have a little extra string on here. So I'm going to just trim it down a little bit. I don't like to cut it off all the way, so I still have something to play with. Okay, so I'm going to just cut that off of my moor. Give myself maybe 10 inches. Alright, it's done. New string. Well, pretty happy with those shots. The string clearly performs. Just a quickie string you can make. Real easy, 2 bowlines. One larger than the other. Appreciate your views. Comments, your support. See you guys in the next vid. Take care.